I want to get to this this conversation about free speech and how insane the leftist mainstream media has gotten it. So you had this Munich security conference last week, and JD Vance was, brought the topic up that Europe, I know you can speak to this. Europe has gotten very grim when it comes to the topic of free speech. Now, he was giving this speech right after there was this 60 Minutes interview, and you had German state prosecutors who were in charge of policing Germany's hate speech laws. And I want to play what they would consider to be a crime over in Germany. Watch.
Is it a crime to insult somebody in public?
Yes, it is.
And it's a crime to insult them online as well?
Yes.
The fine could be even higher if you insult someone in the internet.
Why?
Because in internet, it stays there. If we are talking here face to face, you insult me, I insult you, okay, finish. But if you're in the internet, if I insult you or a politician...
That sticks around forever.
Yeah.
The prosecutors explain German law also prohibits the spread of malicious gossip, violent threats, and fake quotes. If somebody posts something that's not true, and then somebody else reposts it or likes it, are they committing a crime?
Yeah, in the case of reposting, it is a crime as well, because the reader can't distinguish whether you just invented this or just reposted it. That's the same for us.
The punishment for breaking hate speech laws can include jail time for repeat offenders.
Totally freaking insane what is happening in Germany. And so I want to play JD Vance talking to the Conference of European Leaders and Officials and just, talking about the fact that Europe is completely, almost unrecognizable from what previously used to be, our shared values, our shared beliefs. Watch.
We gather at this conference, of course, to discuss security. And normally, we mean threats to our external security. I see many great military leaders gathered here today. But while the Trump administration is very concerned with European security and believes that we can come to a reasonable settlement between Russia and Ukraine, and we also believe that it's important in the coming years for Europe to step up in a big way to provide for its own defense, the threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor. And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values.
Now, the leftist media couldn't handle this, and it got heated again over the weekend when God bless Margaret Brennan. She tries, Matt, she tries. She's got 2 brain cells to rub together maybe, and they are working real hard, okay? And so I want to play this incredible exchange between CBS News Face the Nation anchor Margaret Brennan and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, because Margaret Brennan was going to make a point about JD Vance's comments, because obviously everything that any Republican or conservative says is, of course, pro-Nazi, pro-Hitler. And listen to Margaret Brennan trying to claim that, well, actually, free speech is what caused the Holocaust. Don't you remember? Watch.
Well, he was standing in a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide. And he met with the head of a political party that has far-right views and some historic ties to extreme groups. The context of that was changing the tone of it. And you know that the censorship was specifically about the right.
No, I have to disagree with you. Free speech was not used to conduct a genocide. The genocide was conducted by an authoritarian Nazi regime that happened to also be genocidal because they hated Jews and they hated minorities and they hated those that they had a list of people they hated, but primarily the Jews. There was no free speech in Nazi Germany. There was none. There was also no opposition in Nazi Germany. They were a sole and only party that governed that country. So that's not an accurate reflection of history. I also think it's wrong. Again, I go back to the point of his speech. Okay, the point of his speech was basically that there is an erosion in free speech and intolerance for opposing points of view within Europe, and that's of concern because that is eroding. That's not an erosion of your military capabilities. That's not an erosion of your economic standing. That's an erosion of the actual values that bind us together in this transatlantic union that everybody talks about. And I think allies and friends and partners that have worked together now for 80 years should be able to speak frankly to one another in open forums without being offended, insulted, or upset. And I spoke to foreign ministers from multiple countries throughout Europe. Many of them probably didn't like the speech or didn't agree with it, but they were continuing to engage with us on all sorts of issues that unite us. So again, at the end of the day, I think that people give that is a forum in which you're supposed to be inviting people to give speeches, not basically a chorus where everyone is saying the exact same thing. That's not always going to be the case when it's a collection of democracies where leaders have the right and the privilege to speak their minds in forums such as these.
Mr. Secretary, I'm told that we are out of time.
Oh, we're out of time. We're out of time. Sorry. Gotta go. Gotta go. Of course, everything that she said was completely wrong. Yeah. Because you remember that the Nazis had an actual minister of propaganda. And they censored anything that didn't agree with the Nazi point of view. They burned books. Goebbels controlled the media and the arts. They censored any information that was not Nazi aligned. Obviously, the theater, the radio, the cinema, and you want to talk about book bans. That was the time when they
burned the books. They literally burned the books.
Yes, it was the opposite of free speech. And she's like, well, actually, let's talk about how free speech caused the Holocaust.
All you've got to do with I'm going to be kind. I'm not going to say any names. Yeah, I am. But okay, you have free speech. Free speech can lead you in multiple different directions, right? But I'll tell you what isn't going to lead you in multiple different directions. Not having free speech. So it's kind of like you don't have free speech. You shouldn't say these things. Okay, you're already there. You're already there. Yep. Right? Free speech has to give you the option of things going one way or the other. Right. It has to. It's like free will. Yep. Right? You have to have free will to commit evil. The idea is you don't commit evil if you have free will because you choose not to. Mm-hmm. If you do not have the capacity to choose evil, then these people are idiots. But it's what's really concerning. Look, there's the actual laws that are being put in place, which are bad enough. I can tell you this, that on the ground in Europe, people are self-censoring, which is worse. I think it's worse because if people are feeling...
Well, they don't want to go to jail.
Well, that's right. So you don't actually need the laws. And as we know from what happened under COVID, people were they're very quick to put your next door neighbor in jail, right? Yep. And I think that was a real big wake-up call for a lot of people. But Europe has a massive problem because they will not censor Islamic hate, as in people, Muslims saying things that they shouldn't say. But they are, when people come out and go, hang on a second, and J.D. Vance, by the way, that was probably the greatest vice president speech in history. Yeah. It was unbelievable. And he spoke about there was an attack in Munich the day before, or even that day, I think it was. And so, but you can't say anything and say, hey, listen, we have a problem here. Boom, you're going to jail, right? But other people, because they don't offend the minorities, they can say whatever they want. So don't think that this is being uniformly applied to all the citizens. It's not. Yeah. And that's a massive, massive problem over there. And look, America really has to understand that this is the last bastion of freedom on the planet. Mm-hmm. It really is. That's not hyperbole. It's just not. Yeah. The First Amendment and the Second Amendment, well, all the other amendments in the Bill of Rights, they're so vital. And the world is actually looking to us right now, like going, please, can you help? Yeah. We're in a really, really bad place.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, You like free speech? Sounds like something a Nazi would say. If you like this clip and you want to see the full episode, click here. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, come on, you know you do. Click here.